Al about, I don't know, 2 months ago, shook his hand, and I think it was 18, maybe 17 seconds. I had agreed to do this and about 10 other things. I had absolutely no chance against this guy. But it's all turned out good. How many of you here are skeptics when it comes to somebody saying, this is healthy, buy me? How many of you are not? How many of you believe absolutely everything you hear? I mean, let's face it, Americans are pretty savvy people, right? We're pretty cynical. I'm cynical to the point of being unfair sometimes. Now, my name is John Corso. I am a general internist in Bend, Oregon. And in the last few years, what I've been doing is changing my practice over to preventive medicine. So much so that I actually wrote a book about it, as Al said, it's called Stupid Reasons People Die. And in that book, what I explore is the reasons why tens of thousands of us baby boomers die in the prime of our lives from diseases that we already know how to find and we already know how to stop. Why we slip through the cracks. And in that book, I take a couple nice pot shots at the supplement industry, the nutraceutical industry. And for good reason. I mean, there has never, in my experience, been an industry that is more guilty of making or innuendoing claims, health claims, that have never been substantiated by science. And I can't help it. I have very little patience for people who buy into something without any evidence just because they want it to be true. Okay? It gives things that actually do work a bad name. So, I was pretty hard on that. And I'm going to be sharing some of my own story today about why, in the last few months, at least part of this industry has captured my attention, and I'm supporting part of it, at least one company. Pfizer. I had the opportunity to speak with Al a number of times, and what I did was I shared with him some of the challenges that we have as physicians in a nation where the health is going down. So, and I'm the first to admit that Western medicine is not the greatest when it comes to preventive health care and wellness. They're really good when you get sick. They're really good with an illness model of practice. They're good at that, and I'm proud of that. But they're not really good at helping us stay well. So my question to all of you is, how do we get the modern Western medicine, the insurance industry, this huge infrastructure we have on board to help us stay well, to help us with, you can call it anti-aging, you can call it whatever you want, but help us with preventive health? The answer? Give it up. It's not going to happen. This industry was designed about reacting to things. This industry was designed to come to the rescue. And I think a good example of this sort of thing would be what happened with Katrina and New Orleans. I mean, people knew what could happen, right? But, all the policymakers just kind of put the whole issue on the back burner long enough for a disaster to happen. And now we're in there and we're mopping up. And I think that reflects our human nature. Human nature is extremely reactive. It's not very proactive. And I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot because Al gave me about 5 minutes to put this talk together. So bear with me on that. America has a problem. We have a huge problem. This nice young man should never be this big. He shouldn't have to live with the consequences of this. And you've seen these slides before. America's abundance has a dark side. Right here, everything in light blue, 10% obesity. Everything in darker blue, between 10 and 14% obesity. That's in 1986. And if we jump ahead 40 years, we've got a lot more dark blue in this country. If we go a little further, it's all blue, and a lot of it's dark. And then we get into a new color, red. Red is over 20% obesity. And now Mississippi has the distinction of over 1/4 of its population being obese. And I do not mean overweight. I mean obese. This is a body mass index of 30 or more. These are huge people. This is not a good thing. The question I have is, have we outsmarted ourselves as Americans? Now, we're a clever species, and we know how to manipulate our food, our environment. We're pretty good at that. And so we've gotten away from a lot of natural foods. Natural foods like fruits and vegetables and things like that. Whole grains. How many of you here would agree with me that whole grains are probably good? How about whole grain bread? Probably pretty natural? Whole grain bread? I'm glad to hear you say that. But I got one of these in my backyard. It's right next to the pasta tree and the bowl of brown rice cream. No, there's nothing natural about bread. Even whole grain bread. Or pasta or anything like that. In fact, let's look at what it takes to make bread. First, you got to grow the grain, and then there's the back-breaking toil of actually harvesting it, and then you've got to separate it from its husk, and then you've got to get these things. You got to stick them in the thing and smash them with a big rock for a long time. You get this powder, which you add some water and some oil and some yeast, and it has to rise. And then you stick it in this very unnatural hot place for a while, and then, and only then, you get bread. Okay, that's a lot of work. Little Red Hen made a whole book out of it, and retired. And what's interesting is that, we are smart. We like starch. We like sweet. Why? Because when we were, years ago, if you eat a plant and it tasted sweet, or, and bringing it sweet, it was probably safe to eat. So it's natural that human beings have a real affinity. We get real pleasure out of sweet tastes. And so if a little is good, and we're smart, we can concentrate it and make it a whole lot even more. And every culture you look at has this. Tortillas, pita, rice, pasta, all concentrated carbs, French fries. Okay? And what? Had a great thought there for a second. Oh. If you put a person in a PET scanner, positron emission scanner, and you feed them bread, you can watch their brain actually function. And you can see the happiness happen. The explosions of dopamine, explosions of serotonin. And it's like comfort food on steroids. And that's really what we do. That's what we've done with our society. And now our supermarkets, when you look at them, that's all I see. I see snacks, I see Twinkies, Pop-Tarts, and this is who's eating. Now we're the first generation to have children with a shorter life expectancy than us. Because we are developing diabetes, we're developing obesity, depression, arthritis, everything that goes with it. And it seems that about 700 years ago, we upped the ante. We learned to harvest sugar from sugarcane, and dessert is born. Now, how many do it over 40 years? Thank goodness. I belong. Who remembers the family station wagon? We're going on vacation, right? It's hot. We're going to Grand Canyon, we're going to Grandma's house across the way, what have you. And we pull into a gas station, we're driving for hours, and use the bathroom, and you come out, and Mom and Dad have got you something wonderful. Wonderful. Your very own 10-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola. You do not have to share it with your sister. You get to you don't have to pour a little glass and get a little bit. You get to nurse this thing for the next hour. Of course, things are a little different today. The beverage this young lady is drinking doesn't have sugar in it. It's got table sugar. It has high fructose corn syrup in it. A new invention of the last few decades. And high fructose corn syrup does not have the courtesy to tell you that you just drank 1,000 calories. The brain doesn't see it. You don't get full. You can drink this stuff all day long and just pour those calories in your body, and you don't know you did it. So I'm not necessarily blaming everything on high fructose corn syrup, but I would say that overall, Americans are, at this stage, we are the richest nation of all time. We are the heaviest nation of all time. In my opinion, in my experience as a doctor, we are the most miserable nation. At least more than we used to be. Depression, diabetes, arthritis, all sorts of problems. So we've outsmarted ourselves. And I'm not going to say high fructose corn syrup is entirely responsible, but I don't think you can avoid this trend. The red bars are the obesity trend. The yellow is the high fructose corn syrup consumption. It doesn't prove anything. As Al said, I'm a stickler for the science. This is a correlation. It may have nothing to do with anything, but it can be good for you. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own story if I can. I've been doing medicine for about 20 years. And for 20 years, I've had patients coming in to me with their new supplement, the new member marketing company, and they go, Doc, and they feel great, they're sincere. They go, Doc, I feel so good on this stuff. Could you just, promote it with me? Look it over. And I say, well, I tell them all the same thing. Show me the data. Okay, just show me the data. Go find out whatever studies that will tell me that what you've got in here is good for humans, or at least that it's good for animals. Oh no, call this guy, he's a scientist. Oh, no, I don't want to talk to him. I don't, get me the data first, and I'll tell you if I want to talk to him, okay? Never got it. Ever. 20 years. So my assumption is that if the data existed, they'd be pounding on my door, right? To give it to me. But no one went any further. Maybe I'm more intimidating than I think to my patients. I don't know, but I thought it was being nice. So, second thing, I was having a bit of a personal crisis in the last few years. For those of you who've met me and see me up here, I'm not a big guy, right? I was born a bit of a skinny run. Being a skinny run, you have to avoid the bullies in high school, and the short guys are the worst, trust me. You're a little self-conscious around the opposite sex, things like that. But the good thing about being a skinny run is that when you do grow up and you marry the perfect woman and you're established and you're happy, you're still a skinny runt. Emphasis on skinny, and I could eat anything I wanted. And then about age 45, about 6 years ago, I started getting a little tighter here and had to buy some new clothes, and my body was basically telling me that the party was over. And pardon my language, but I was pissed off. I mean, I'm still short, and now I'm going to be, but I don't do short end fight. I felt, so I did, more weights, and I cut out the pint of Haagen-Dazs every night. And you think I'm kidding. Anyway, so maybe things were right. But what happened to me is that about 3.5 months ago, a guy walks into my office. His name is David Langus. Now, David is a friend of mine for the last 13 years. He's a patient of mine for the last 11 years. He became a patient after he survived a terrible accident. He was playing softball, he was the catcher, got run over by a runner, hit his head on home plate, had a bleed into his brain, was in a coma for 3 weeks, was on a respirator for 3 weeks, and should have died. But Dave came back to us very gradually, had to learn to read and write again because he had lost the ability to speak. He had something called broken aphasia. Now, this is a guy who was one of the nation's top headhunters, one of the big recruiters for cardiologists. 200 phone calls a day. Okay, so this had an impact on Dave. So I would try to help him out. I mean, he worked very hard, but we use things like Ritalin, we use things like Dexamethasone, like Adderall. We used every medicine we could try to help his speech. He also would take about 8 to 10 shots of coffee a day. And every now and then, we'd have to go to his house, and we would have to raid and make sure he wasn't taking things that interacted with this drug. These are actually Dave's supplements about 5 months ago. For real. We'll take them home. So about 3.5 months ago, in walks Dave, and he's carrying this much of these little boxes that have these little bottles in them, all purple. And about $300-400 worth of stuff, and some other things, some tall bottles that are all purple and stuff like that. And he leaves a couple CDs, and he leaves a letter. I didn't see the letters, and I just, oh God, Dave, what are you doing? So the letter basically says, "Hi John, look, I'm off the drugs, I'm off the coffee, I feel great, I'm speaking better than I have in a long time. I don't know, I met this guy Steve Cherniske, he seems like really smart, kind of reminds me of you. You talk the same language, you always say the science is garbage, but maybe it's not, maybe it is, please let me know. Listen to the CD, try this stuff, love it." So he's got a moral advantage over me because he bought all this product in, And he's already giving me my line back about, the science may be loud. So, first of all, I had to get out of my office and put it in my car so that people wouldn't see it. I put the CD in, and it's interesting. I listened to, you all know Steve Cherniske, obviously. And I'm listening, and the first thing Steve says, this was music, and he says, "Those of you who think Mother Nature is on your side are idiots." I'm like, yeah, the working title of my book, which is called Super Rich People Guide, but the working title was actually Mother Nature is a BITC. That's what we call it, right? So meet this guy in the CDs, and I'm like, this is great. The second thing I hear him say after this, he gets it. I thought I was all alone. But anyway, the next thing he says is, the only thing I want to hear, Univera has conducted double-blind, placebo-controlled, prospective human clinical trials. Now, you need all those words, or the test doesn't mean anything. And all those words translate to a lot of money. And I'm kind of dropping my jaw going, yeah, right. No way, but they have. And I'll tell you, that doesn't happen. Pharmaceutical companies do those. Nutraceutical and supplement companies do not do those. I'll tell you why they don't do them. They're not done. They don't do them because they cost a freaking fortune. What you have to do is you got to get the stuff you're testing, and you got to get a placebo to match it. You got to get hundreds or thousands of patients, and every one of those patients cannot know what they're getting, neither can the person who gives it to them. You have to concerns are taken care of, they cost millions. Why would you do that when you cannot patent it? You can't patent glucosamine. You can't patent coenzyme Q10. So what you do is you prove that they work, and what happens is everybody gets to sell it, and you go down the tubes financially, you commit suicide. Right? The other reason they're not going to do it is most of the supplements out there don't do it on purpose. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot and prove that what you're doing maybe doesn't do what you say it does. Who wants to do that? They're selling well. The pharmaceutical companies aren't going to do it because they'll just create cheap competition and they can't patent it anyway. Who should be doing it? People who should be doing it are our government. And that doesn't get any votes. You don't vote for somebody because he says he's going to do nutraceutical research, right? And the pharmaceutical industry and the supplement industry are maybe not actively, but maybe passively discouraging that. They don't really want it. So these are not done. All right. So I'm intrigued, right? So I say, okay, I'll make a drink this stuff. So I get a bottle of this, I take it home, I get a bottle of stuff and I drink it down. And I have to take the unbelievable abuse of my family. It's no joke, right? That's right. It's like, you're taking a supplement. Dad's taking a supplement, And I'm like, whoa, so what? You said you never would. I get all defensive. No, I didn't. I said, show me the data. I said, show me the data. Okay. You're done. You're taking a supplement. So I had to do that. And it hasn't ended. But anyway. All right, so I start taking it. Now, here's the interesting thing. At about day 6, it's a Monday, right? And I'm at work. And it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The gal comes up from downstairs, and she's going to take the coffee pot away for the next day. The coffee was expensive. And I realized I forgot my coffee. Well, one time in 42 years isn't bad. And I'm just amazed. I forgot how this never happened. Then I realized, in fact, it has happened. It happened the day before, which was Sunday. And the day before that, which was Saturday. I didn't want to go coffee. I have nothing against coffee. I just forgot. Okay, well, so I'm going, where does it say cocaine on this? Now, wait, maybe they found the original Coke recipe. I don't know, I'm sleeping well, so I think it's okay. So, and then 3 weeks later, I'm in Spokane. And in Spokane, I'm giving a talk. I talk on blood pressure to other doctors. So I'm doing a lunch talk and a dinner talk, and I go eat in between, usually 2 or 3 o'clock. And it's my guilty pleasure, because you can't get them in Bend. My guilty pleasure is a Jack Taco, okay, or 10. And so normally I'm thinking, I really can't face a Jack Taco today. And I really can't face a room. I can't face a restaurant. It's like, gosh. So I called Kevin, who's the guy who had me down there to talk. And I said, Kevin, what's the name of a Whole Foods store around here? He says, Huckleberry. So I plug it into the GPS system, off I go. And I go to Huckleberry's, and I buy Huckleberries, and I buy some macadamia nuts and a berry smoothie, and I'm happy. Now that doesn't happen either. I am an enchilada burger kind of guy. So I'm like, okay, this is strange. All right. Now here's the thing. And by the end of 8 weeks, not only have I lost the 10 pounds that I gained over the last 5 years, all from here pretty much, I have also not had a piece of candy for those 8 weeks. Now, I used to steal my kids' Halloween candy. I used to steal my brothers and sisters' Halloween candy. I mean, I was a sociopath about Halloween candy. I'm addicted to candy, but I'm not anymore. And so I was just going, the cravings have really changed. So I'm very impressed. During this time, I've been doing my research. I was the last person to get on the doctor's page before Univera hit an iceberg. I was actually on the page. I was on the page. I just gotten on. It was 1 week into hearing about your company. 1 week into it. There's the doctor's page, yay, and it says, hey, welcome, blah, blah, blah. And then I hit like a refresh, and it's just, this is down forever. So I had to really fight to get the references from the Univera studies. But once I got them, I started looking at all the things that they use to decide what they put into their products. Okay? And this led me to Boston, Tufts University, a guy named James Joseph, and a lot of other things. And I'm not going to share a lot of that with you, but I think it's important to understand, where the decision to put something like this together comes from. I'm going to share with you one slide here. If you happen to be a fish or rat living in the greater Boston area, you will probably have a bunch of cloned brethren because they're all identical twins. And what they're going to do is they're going to give, half these rats rat chow, or Purina rat chow, and the other half Purina rat chow, plus some berry extract at a high concentration. And at the end of 8 weeks, these are middle-aged rats, they're 2 years old, so they're middle-aged like me. And they will have a better memory. The memory keeps them out of cold water, so it's easy to measure. Better at solving new tasks more easily, again, out of cold water. processing auditory information more quickly. How many of you realize that when you talk to somebody elderly, it's not so much as they can't hear you, but you talk too fast, right? There's reasons for that. You can measure that. It's not so nice to the rat when you measure that, but you can measure it, and they process information like a younger rat. Greater motor skills. They put them on these log rolls and get cold water underneath, and they got to balance on this thing while it's spinning. And if you were one of the rats who got the berry extract, right, you'd be very happy to know that right before they put you to sleep and took your head off and looked at your brain, that you would have had 5 times as many brand new brain cells, hippocampal brain cells, than your brother, than your identical twin. And the mechanisms for that are very complicated, and I don't have time. I go into it in my long talk, but I'm not going to go into it in this talk. But it's fascinating, and it's actually quite wonderful. Why people weren't bringing this information to me when they were trying to sell me their product, 5 years ago, I have no idea. Let's talk about cravings for a minute. How many of you here have seen this movie? Yeah. Super Size Me. This was a documentary. It's very well made. And this is a guy, a pretty healthy guy, who decides he's going to eat McDonald's for an entire month. Nothing but 2 rules. 1, if they say, would you like to supersize that, the answer is yes. And you have to try everything on the menu at least once. Okay? So, early in the footage, two days into this poor guy is barfing out of his car. I mean, it's disgustingly sick by the whole thing. 3 weeks into it, he's 15 pounds heavier, and he can't wait for his next Big Mac. It's craving. Now, I shared with you my experience of craving something different. So I went from eating the Big Macs to craving berries and fruits and vegetables and nuts. And it occurred to me that this is an opportunity, because I'm dealing with this obesity thing we talked about. I'm dealing with people, no matter how good a doctor I am, no matter how important I may think I am, my word means absolutely nothing if I tell a patient to not stop eating something. They say, sure, doctor. Yeah. No effect at all. If a human being is looking at something that's in his house and he wants to eat it, he's going to eat it 99 times out of 100. All right? And if he looks at it and he knows he should exercise, and he looks at that couch and he's tired, he's going home from work, he's not going to exercise, no matter what I say. But Western medicine and human nature are good at one thing. We can't make you stop something, but we're good at getting you to eat something. We're very good at having you add a pill to your day. That's worked for the centuries, hasn't it? So instead of a pill, I've started having my patients add this. It's like, all right, why don't you take 2 of these a day and just see if the carbs call to you with the same vigor that they did before. And I'm seeing results. Obviously I felt it. I'm seeing it in patients who are diabetic. I'm seeing people lose weight. I'm seeing one guy quit smoking after 1 week on this. They're in balance. My partner, Dr. Madeline LeMay, a very healthy, thin, active person, took 1 swig of this and went, no way. I felt like I was on speed. It doesn't agree with everybody, but it agrees with about 70% of my patients. And if a drug agrees with 70% of your patients, we call that a blockbuster. Okay? I mean it. That's huge results in medicine. It's absolutely huge. So, let's finish up a little talk about Univera. So far, I'm not the expert here, okay? I'm not going to put myself out there, but it's the only company that I have seen that is trying to adopt the methodology of the pharmaceutical industry. And that's a compliment. Because the pharmaceutical industry, no matter what you hear in the news, they have advanced the ability to help people who are sick. Like there's no tomorrow. They give me tools to work miracles. And they get vilified, and you get the Vioxx stories and all this stuff. But I'm telling you, 99 times out of 100, they did home runs. And to use their methods is brilliant. They are very good. They're not good at doing wellness, but they're very good at research, and they're very good at biology. They've got that down. And this is what I see Univera doing. I'm very confused about. Hey. We're going to talk a little bit about quality control. Why do we hate generics? I hate generics. Is it because they're cheaper and I want the drug companies to make more money? No. It's because the quality control of generics is lax when it comes to generic drugs. They don't have to do what the original drug does. They have sloppier standards, and it shows. I switch a person from one drug to the generic equivalent, and it doesn't do as well. Sometimes it does better, but it usually doesn't do as well. What happens? It's expensive to do quality control. Now, and if here's my little Lipitor pill, right? Inside this Lipitor pill, there's a gazillion molecules of Lipitor, nothing else. Repeated over and over and over and over again. That's a pretty clean thing, easy to test. Here's a blueberry. Blueberry happens to have 80,000 different chemicals in it. And if I picked it today, it's very different than if I picked it last week. And it's going to be different still if I pick it next week. In fact, in the time it took me to tell you that, if I was holding one, it would have changed significantly. It's a living, breathing, changing, evolving thing. And, you know, these products have foods in them that are all like that, and they're all changing. And so quality control means that every element you put into a mixture, you have to run it through a test, a chromatograph, and make sure that you're getting the components in there that you need. You need more money than God to do that. And I guess Bill Lee has about that money. And that's great, because that's the upfront payment that they're doing to compete in this world. Finally, the guy with the 5-minute slide is going to be very happy because I'm going to finish up on time. 4 minutes now. You know, Univera, from a business standpoint, I'm not the greatest businessman, I'm a doctor, for goodness sake. But the pharmaceutical model of saying, we are going to prove that something works. Now, we're not going to get the FDA to say it works, and you're not going to go around and you're not going to say that this does anything. You can't do that yet. Maybe at some point you can. In fact, I'm just going to digress a bit. There's one product that this company made. They've actually licensed out to a quote-unquote, real pharmaceutical. By that I mean a pharmaceutical company that's trying to get FDA approval to put it out as a drug, and they have, and I've prescribed it for my patients. It came from here. So this model, you can't patent coenzyme Q10, but you can patent a proprietary blend of substances that you've shown has a benefit, and you can patent the process of extraction and the way you deliver it. You can patent those things, and when you do that and then you study them, only you can say, this study applies to this one thing that we made the way we make it. No other company can do that. This is how the pharmacies have made billions of dollars every year. And this is the approach that I see happening with Univera. You know, intellectual honesty is what science is all about. Science is, for example, if I'm intellectually honest and I believe something, my greatest goal should be to prove I'm wrong. Okay? It's not about being right, it's about getting to the truth. It's possible scientific honesty is absolutely vital, and it's more important than profit. But there's no reason, in my opinion, that you can't have both together in a company, especially at this stage in time when this company is on the verge of merging the two fields of Western medicine and pharmaceutical science with the nutraceutical, the food-based science that the baby boomer generation is absolutely screaming for. No one's out there filling the void. I think Univera may be the flagship company for that. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here. Thank you. Thank you, John.